open wide from the depths, from the heights. I will bring a sacrifice. With these hands lifted high, hear my song, hear my cry. I will bring a sacrifice. I will bring a sacrifice. I lay me down, I'm not my own. I belong to you alone. Lay me down, lay me down. Oh, and on my heart this much is true. There's no life apart from you. Lay me down, lay me down. Letting go of my pride, giving up all my rights. Take this light and let it shine, shine, shine. Take this light and let it shine. I lay me down, I'm not my own. I belong to you alone. Lay me down, lay me down. Oh, and on my heart this much is true. There's no life apart from you. Lay me down, lay me down. Oh, lay me down, lay me down. It will be my joy to say, your will, your way. It will be my joy to say, your will, your way. It will be my joy to say, your will, your way, always. It will be my joy to say, your will, your way. It will be my joy to say, your will, your way. It will be my joy to say, your will, your way, always. I lay me down, I'm not my own. I belong to you alone. Lay me down, lay me down. Oh, and on my heart this much is true. There's no life apart from you. Lay me down, lay me down. I lay me down, I'm not my own. I belong to you alone. Lay me down, lay me down. Oh, and on my heart this much is true. There's no life apart from you. Lay me down, lay me down. Oh, lay me down, lay me down.
Good morning. Bob wasn't that fast the first time we rehearsed it this morning. So he's really gaining on the drums back here. I give him little tips and that, and I step back here to try and show him a few things and realize that I haven't sat down at the drums for a long time either. So I give him full credit for what he's doing back here. Thank you, Bob. Yeah, he's not just a pastor, he's reckless. So you got to be a little bit reckless to play the drums. So it's just wonderful. How about this weekend? You know, Susan and I were at a birthday party yesterday and had 7 of our 8 grandkids all together at the same time. Jake and Love are here from Oregon, and Tony and Liz brought the kids from Williamston, and Autumn and Trent were there, and all the boys, and we just had a wonderful time. And it was at Kim and Jack's house, and they were putting together a chicken pen, okay? They got this very nice chicken pen. But they got a load of dirt hauled in to be able to put fresh dirt in the chicken pen. So there was this pile of dirt in the driveway still about this tall. Probably about a good 2/3 of a dump truck load yet. You've never seen such dirty little kids in all your life yesterday. Oh, your boys would have been nothing. They had to hose these kids off twice. They were so bad, but it was dirt in their ears and their nose and their shoes, and oh, it was wonderful. It was fun. And then my sister, Cindy, showed up and got up in the dirt and played with them too, because she's just that way. But we had a good time yesterday. It was really wonderful. Let's ask the Lord to come join us this morning. Father, we thank you so much for your love. We thank you for the opportunity to be here, God, in your house. To be in fellowship together, God, and to just be in like mind, Father, focused on you and just enjoying and praising you. So God, as we've come, may you also be here this morning. May we feel your presence, the Holy Spirit in this room, Father. Stir our hearts, God, and let us know that you are God. And I just thank you and praise you, God, for all your many blessings, and most of all for your grace, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Morning, Sarah.
Bob's been having fun with this one too this morning, so forgive him if he makes a little mistake now and then, okay?
I was born in Tennessee, late July humidity. Doctor said I was lucky to be alive. I've been in trouble since the day that I got here. I'll be in trouble till the day that I disappear. That'll be the day that I finally get it right. There is hope for me yet, because God won't forget all the plans He's made for me. I'll have to wait and see. He's not finished with me yet. He's not finished with me yet. I never really was that good in school. I talked too much, broke the rules. Teacher said I was a hopeless fool. Alright. I don't know how, but I made it through. It's one of those things that you gotta do. I always had a knack for telling the truth. There is hope for me yet, because God won't forget all the plans He's made for me. I'll have to wait and see. He's not finished with me yet. He's not finished with me yet. Still wondering why I'm here, still wrestling with my fears, but oh, He's up to something. And the further on I go, I've seen enough to know that I'm not here for nothing. He's up to something. So now's my time to be a man, follow my heart as far as I can. No telling where I'm ending up tonight. I never slowed down, so it seems. Singing my heart is one of my dreams. All I gotta do is hold on tight. There is hope for me yet, because God won't forget the lie of inward shame, but fix our eyes upon the cross and run to Him who showed great love and bled for us. Freely you bled for us. Christ is risen from the dead, trampling over death by death. Come awake, come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Christ is risen from the dead, we are one with Him again. Come awake, come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Beneath the weight of all our sins, you bow to none but heaven's will. No scheme of hell, no scoffer's crown, no burden great could hold you down in strength. You reign forever, let your church proclaim. Christ is risen from the dead, trampling over death by death. Come awake, come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Christ is risen from the dead, we are one with Him again. Come awake, come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Oh, death, where is your sting? Oh, hell, where is your victory? Oh, church, come stand in the light. The glory of God has defeated the night. Singing, oh, death, where is your sting? Oh, hell, where is your victory? Oh, church, come stand in the light. Our God is not dead, He's alive, He's alive. Christ is risen from the dead, trampling over death by death. Come awake, come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Christ is risen from the dead, we are one with Him again. Come awake, come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Christ is risen from the dead, we are one with Most High God. Come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Christ is risen from the dead, we are one with Him again. Come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Christ is risen from the dead, trampling over death by death. Come awake, come and rise up from the grave. Christ is risen from the dead, we are one with Him again. Come awake, come and rise up from the grave. There's no space that His love can't reach. There's no place where we can't find peace. There's no end to amazing grace. Take me in with your arms spread wide. Take me in like an orphan child. Never let go, never leave my side. I am This is my hallelujah come. This is why to you I run. This is my resurrection song. This is my hallelujah come. This is why to you I run. There's no space where his love can't reach. There's no place where we can't find peace. There's no end to amazing grace. I am holding on to you. I am holding on to you. In the middle of the storm, I'm holding on. I am holding on to you. I am holding on to you. In the middle of the storm, I'm holding on. I am holding on to you. I am holding on to you. In the middle of the storm, I'm holding on. I am. In the middle of the storm, I'm holding on. I Come out of sadness from wherever you've been. Come broken hearted, let rescue begin. Come find your mercy, oh sinner, come near. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. So lay down your burden. Lay down your shame. All who are broken, lift up your face. Oh, wanderer, come home. You're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart, come as you are. There's hope for the hopeless and all those who've strayed. Come sit at the table, come taste the grace. There's rest for the weary, rest that endures. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't cure. So lay down your burden, lay down your shame. All who are broken, lift up your face. Oh, wanderer, come home. You're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart, come as you are. Come as you are. Fall in his arms. Come as you are. There's joy for the morning and all those who fear. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. So lay down your burden, lay down your shame. All who are broken, So lay down your head, lay down your heart, come as you are, come as you are, come as you are, come as you are.
We are going to continue with our series from a book called Wrecked and Redeemed by Benji Kelley. And Benji Kelley is now a pastor, but he started out finding Christ in a jail cell. So there's hope. There's hope even for Shane, for Ron. We keep praying. And God sometimes brings people to the end of their ropes before they are willing to look up.
That's where he
To
took
get
me.
help. Yeah. So we're going to continue with this series, but this is number 5, so we're 5 weeks into it. And the title for this chapter is Come As You Are. And often churches put up signs that say the opposite of that. You remember that song? Long-haired, freaky people need not apply.
That's a song.
That's
So
a
I
song.
pulled my hair up under my hat and went in and asked him why.
Yeah. So you look like a fine, upstanding man. Imagine me working for you. I never liked that song. I don't know. Do you guys remember that song?
No.
You don't. You're too young.
Where
Too
was that?
young.
I
It
was
was
like
a
this.
song called Signs. And I didn't like it because it sounds so rebellious. And it sounded to me like they were trying to encourage people not to pay attention to signs, to ignore the rules and break the rules. And boy, I was always a really good little rule keeper. I was a legalistic Pharisee and didn't like breaking the rules or ignoring the signs. But Benji Kelley in this book brings this song up and he says, this is the song for church. Churches that are starting out, churches that need to refocus, need to go back to this song. So I forced myself to listen to it again because I didn't like it at first. And so I listened to it again and I realized that the point of the song is not about rule breaking.
Right.
It's about the singer was not feeling comfortable because nobody would accept him as he was. And there's even a verse about him not feeling welcome in church. Oh my goodness. No wonder Benji says this is a song for churches, because we often do that. We often put up signs, not literally, I hope, but we put up signs that are very unwelcoming. The signs that say, go away, not welcome. So he lists in his book several of these signs that we often put up that are not necessarily written anywhere, but people sense them as they come into our church, and so, or as they visit. Here's a few of them. The next slide, Jesse. Here's some go-away signs. Coat and tie required. You guys have broken me of the habit of wearing a tie, so that's good.
Yeah.
I'm there. And I do that because I don't want to give the impression that you have to dress up to come to this church. Sign 2, skin color matters.
You haven't showed up calico yet.
That's good. Or with a coat. Sometimes we give out the impression that skin color matters. And again, nobody ever overtly does this, but if somebody comes in and they feel like everybody's staring at them, like, what are you doing here? Don't you realize this is a white church? And so we put up signs like that sometimes. We are going to embarrass you. Sometimes we just do it. And sorry, Jake, if I ever embarrassed you, like this morning when I said you weren't smiling. And sometimes pastors got to get over this too, that we like to embarrass people when we're trying to make people feel welcome, but we're really saying, go away. All we really want is your money. Again, people feel that. And so we try not to push the offering thing, the tithe thing. I talk about it once a year, and that's it. And it is important, but it's not why people are invited to church. And so I often tell people, Don't put any money in the offering. If you are a visitor today, don't do it. You don't have to. That's not why you're invited. No questions allowed. Sometimes we get in that spirit too. We don't like challenging questions, and sometimes we feel like that's a challenge against us or rejection, and really that is the way the next generation dialogue. They get in discussion by asking hard questions, and so we need to be ready to do that. And probably the worst sign that we can put up is no vacancy. There's no room for you here. It's hard to get in to our little closed clique, little group of people. And sometimes that's why smaller churches struggle, because it feels hard to get in. And we put up signs that say no vacancy, or we don't have room for you, there's no parking, there's nothing for your kids, there's nothing, and we feel, we don't intentionally put up those signs, but that's what people feel. So we need to tear down these signs, according to Pastor Benji, and put up some new ones. Here's the new signs, welcome signs. And these are things that we have been talking about the last 3 or 4 weeks. You matter to God. You matter to us, and you matter to God. Grace happens. We preach grace. And we're going to talk a lot about that today, about extending grace. God searches for the lost. That was the theme last week. God is the seeker. He's looking for lost, hurting people. And hurting people are welcome here. We're going to really hit that one again today, too. Because it's come as you are. That's probably the most important sign that a church needs to put up. Maybe even physically. We should put it out there on the sign. Come as you are. Shorts, jeans, t-shirts, it doesn't matter. Come as you are. You don't have to clean up spiritually. You don't have to get your life in order to come to church. And I don't know how many people I have talked to inviting to church and say, Pastor, I'm working on something right now, or I just don't have it all together right now, but when I do, I will come to church. And I just keep saying it over and over. You don't have to get straightened out before you come. Come as you are. Jesus did this. Jesus always put out the welcome sign, and he always gave this impression to everybody he met. You are welcome just as you are. You are accepted just as you are. So probably the greatest story that tells this is in John chapter 8, the story of the woman caught in adultery. And yes, I know that if you open your Bible and you look in there, you'll see a footnote at the bottom that says that chapter 8, verses 1 through 11 don't appear in the earliest manuscripts. And so some people believe that John, the Apostle John, didn't actually write this, that maybe it was written in later by a second author. I don't know. And I don't really care too much, because the story is so much like Jesus that it lines up with every other encounter that Jesus ever had with people, sinful people. And so here's a great story. Chapter 8, verse 1. Jesus went to the Mount of Olives, which is just outside Jerusalem, and at dawn he appeared again in the temple courts in Jerusalem, where all the people gathered around him. And he sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say? They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away, one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. "Go and leave your life of sin." This is such a great story. This is pure genius. This is one of the reasons why I don't believe it was made up. I think it really happened, because you can't make this up. It is so good. And I believe it actually happened. And it gets right at one of the hardest issues that we deal with as a church and as Christians, in our culture especially. And the question is, how do you welcome the sinner without welcoming the sin? If you welcome the sinner, are you not approving of their sin? Are you condoning their sin? If you fail, no?
No, I don't think that you're condoning the sin. And Christ did not condone the sin,
No, he didn't.
but he welcomed the sinner and showed compassion.
Yes. That's exactly what he did. And he did not condemn her. And again, this is one thing we get it's so hard to not do or to do right, because we are easily misunderstood, as Jesus was misunderstood. If you fail to condemn a sinner, you're failing to condemn the sin, according to people, according to our society, and even Christians act like this a lot. And so this story really helps us to see how important it is to love the sinner while hating the sin. And that is possible, and that is the right way to handle that situation. That's how you welcome the sinner without welcoming the sin. So I want to talk about, actually, we got 2 parts this morning. So hold on, because it's a little bit long. But I want to go through the story again, talk about how Jesus did this. And then I want to, on a very personal note, as your pastor, I want to share a possible application of these principles that we can put into practice right here in Oceana County, and how we can do the same thing, how we can be welcoming. So the story is, again, come as you are. This is what Jesus did. He extended to her both grace and truth. And the grace is first and foremost. It is right up front. It is the whole point of this story. And it's not until you get to the very last sentence that the truth part comes in. Go and sin no more. But the rest of it is pure grace. It is grace. It is acceptance. It is welcoming. And so we find Jesus was put in a very hard place, wasn't he? The Pharisees did this on purpose. You almost wonder if they set up the whole thing, because the woman was caught in adultery, in the act. How do you do that unless you have set it up ahead of time? And you just know that it's probably what happened, because they only brought the woman. Where's the guy? According to the law of Moses, he should have been stoned as well. So you just can imagine that the guy was probably on the payroll of these Pharisees who set this whole thing up, trapped her, and then used her to trap Jesus. Because they put him in a hard place. Put her before him in front of all the people in the temple courts of Jerusalem. And he said, Jesus, the law says to stone her. What do you say? What's he supposed to say? If he said, go ahead and stone her, first of all, he would have been in trouble with Rome, because the the Jews were not allowed to execute people without Roman authority or permission. So he'd have been in trouble with Rome, but he would have looked like a major jerk too, wouldn't he? And he would have lost all of his followers. They would have said, you're just like one of the other Pharisees. So that was not a good option. But if he went the other way, if he'd have said, don't stone her, then the Pharisees would say, look, 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 Jesus is preaching against Moses. He's a heretic, he's a lawbreaker. He's going against the signs. And he is condoning adultery. That's what they would have said. Look, he approves of adultery. What a great spiritual leader he must be. So man, what a tough place to be. How do you handle something like that? And at first Jesus said absolutely nothing. What did he do? He bent down and he started writing on the ground. Wouldn't you like to know what he wrote? That's one of my first questions when I get to heaven. Jesus, what did you write on the ground? 'Cause nobody knows, and there's a ton of speculation about it.
He's doodling.
Doodling. So even some people think that he was trying to collect his thoughts and decide, what am I going to say? I don't think so. I think he knew what was coming in his divinity and his foreknowledge. He knew all of this was going on. But he stood up and he gave an answer that was pure genius. Because it got him out of these two hard places. Because he did say, go ahead, stone her. But the first guy to throw a stone needs to be somebody who has never sinned. Wow. Total silence. You can just imagine silence came over the whole crowd. Everybody's looking around. Is anybody going to pick up a stone? But he who was without sin cast the first stone. And then total silence. And Jesus went back to writing on the ground. He didn't even look around. And one by one, people started walking away. And when Jesus looked up again, everybody was gone, and it was just him and the woman. And he welcomed her.
Grace multiplied.
Mm-hmm.
And think of that also, because as they looked at themselves and walked away one by one, each one of them was offering her grace.
Yeah, they had to offer grace, but Jesus did it first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he welcomed this woman. He said, neither do I condemn you.
Was the grace just for her, or was it for the crowd also?
Maybe for the whole crowd, yeah. In fact, that's actually the second point I'm going to really hit on. But I wanted to start out by saying that Jesus accepted her just as she was. She didn't say, I'm not an adulteress. She didn't deny it. Everybody knew this was really true. But he still accepted her. He said, I do not condemn you. And he welcomed her just as she was. But he didn't welcome her sin. And the last thing he said was, go and leave your life of sin. So that's how you handle something like that. It's loving and welcoming the sinner without welcoming the sinner. And there's a lot of grace first, and then truth. I'll get to that in a minute too. So I'm trying to go fast because I've got some other stuff I want to share. So the second thing is that we have to extend grace to. Randy mentioned it. Every one of those that dropped their stones and walked away were extending grace because they needed it too. Because we need it too. Every one of us has received grace. And so we cannot step up to the plate when Jesus says, let anyone who is without sin be the first to cast a stone. Nobody could step up to that plate. Nobody was perfect. Nobody is perfect. Nobody can accuse and condemn without pointing at themselves too. Isn't that interesting that when you point a finger, you've got three of them pointing back at you? That's what Jesus was saying. So you need to extend grace, and that's the power of this whole story, was that incredible answer and the poignancy of the story that if you are without sin, you can cast the first stone. And Jesus was the only one who could step up to that plate. And he didn't do it. Some people think that when he was writing on the ground, that maybe he was writing out a list of sins that people around there had committed, and they may have seen their sin down there and said, oh, he knows. Some people think he might have written out a list of names. Maybe people who have committed adultery. Maybe some of the men that were standing right there saw their name and said, oh man, he knows. I cannot cast a stone. And so we all fall into that category. We all have to extend grace. And it says that they started to walk away one by one, starting with the older ones first. Why do you think the older ones walked away first?
They're smart.
They're smarter, wiser, they have more experience.
Possibly more sin.
Yeah, the older you are, the longer you have a chance to commit sin.
That's true. Yeah. I think those are very true, good answers. Pastor Benji, in his book, he said, I am thankful that as the years go by, most of us tend to understand that life is hard, none of us are perfect, and grace abounds. We do. We tend to mellow as we get older, right? And I hope
We become more forgiving.
we do. We become more forgiving
I think we've become more humble too.
and humble.
And I think that's part of it, is that they were more easily humbled than the younger ones.
I also think like the closer in your walk with God, the easier it is for you to see sin.
That's true too. And the easier it is to extend grace too, because you learn more. You get closer, you become more like Christ and what he did. So yeah, maturity, wisdom, that's all involved in there, as well as experience. I've just never been perfect, and so I certainly can't condemn somebody else for their imperfection. So the last thing is grace and space for truth, number 3. I like how Jesus ended up with this woman. We never know what happened with her. Did she go and sin no more? Did she repent? Did she leave her life of sin? We don't know. We don't know what happened. We never even know her name. We do know that Jesus did not make repentance a condition for his acceptance. That she knew that she was welcome, she was accepted, she was loved, even before she went and left her life of sin. But we don't know if she ever did. What we do know is that Jesus gave her grace, and then he gave her space. I love that. He just said, here's the truth. You have sinned. Now go and sin no more. Did he follow her home to make sure she didn't? No. He gave her the space to go and work it out. To go and start applying that truth to her life. He gave her some space to, grow in this, possibly. I don't know. We don't know. All we know is that he loved her and accepted her even before he sent her home and sent her with the truth. And so we're invited as a church to do the same thing. We need to, again, this is our number one priority, is to welcome people, to extend grace, to have a welcoming spirit in our signs, that welcomes people just as they are, with no conditions. We don't tell people you have to repent first before you can be welcome. We don't tell people, we don't check people at the door. Okay, show me your card and show me your resume. We don't do that. At least we shouldn't. We should give the message that you do not have to be perfect. You don't have to be all cleaned up. You don't have to have everything lined up before you can come to church here. Right? Hoping that's what we do. We keep on giving that message out. And like Jesus, our message should say, we do not condemn you. Now, like Jesus, we also say, go and sin no more, right? Because that's love. It's not condemnation, it's love. It's saying, this is the best thing for you. This will help you. Go and sin no more. We do give truth, but we also give space. Grace and space for truth, for growth, and for change to happen. Our job is to welcome, but it's not my job as a pastor to clean people up. It's God's job, isn't it? It's not our job as a church to go after people and say, get this straightened out, clean this up. Or you're not going to be welcome here. But we do give truth, don't we? We don't hold back on the truth, but we give grace and space for that truth to take hold and for God to do the work. So that is the quick part of studying the story of what Jesus did with this woman and in general how we should do it as a church. But I want to talk about something really specific today. You guys probably already know about a lot of this. I'm going to stick to my notes because I want to get it exactly right. You know that as a pastor, I have a special place in my heart for our Hispanic community. Susie and I spent 16 years as missionaries to Latin America. And one of the main reasons that we felt released from that was because we knew we could go on being missionaries to Hispanics right here in Oceana County. But I've also found that it is impossible to reach out to the Hispanic community in the United States without dealing with the immigration issue. And this is why I need to stick close to my notes because I know this is a tough issue. What do you do if they're here illegally? Or what if they have illegal family members, as most of them do in our community? Is it possible to love them and to welcome them into our church, even if they are illegal? I would have to say yes. I have to. I'm not telling you you have to, but I have to. I believe this is necessary. I have often felt like Jesus with this woman caught in adultery. What do you do? If you don't condemn the illegal alien, then you are condoning illegal immigration. And people say that to me all the time. They do. They believe that and act that way. They think I'm soft on immigration and that I approve of illegal immigration, that I encourage it. There's somebody, I don't know who's doing it, but somebody's actually spreading a rumor, and it got back to me this week, that I am trying to make this church into a sanctuary church for illegals. It's not true. That's not the truth of the matter at all. It's no more true than I want our church to become a sanctuary for adulterous women. I don't condone sin. I don't condone illegal immigration. I don't encourage it any more than I would encourage adultery. I do think they're on totally different levels morally, but I don't condone it. Yet I want to be like Jesus, the way he was with this woman and with the other sinners that he encounters. I want to give grace and space for truth, recognizing that it's not my job, it's not our job as a church to clean people up or to check them at the door, to let God do that in his time and in his space. I'm not going to back away from truth. I do believe in it. But with truth comes a lot of grace and a lot of space. So I do want our church to seek out lost people. We talked about this last week. And I even mentioned last week, lost people are hurting and broken and worried and confused. And that would include our Hispanic population and illegals. I very purposely mentioned the illegals last week, and it got me in trouble. I'm still in trouble. So that's one reason why I'm clarifying things today. So I'm saying this to you guys, but I'm going to repeat it again to the ones that I got in trouble with too. Not that much trouble. I'm not saying that was really bad. But I want our church to reach out, and I want us to welcome anybody and everybody, just as I would for any broken person, to even welcome the illegals. Not that we check at the door to see. We shouldn't even care. We shouldn't even find out. That's not our job. I want to reach out to lost people. And one of the ways that we can do this, and I've talked to a few of you about this program that the Wesleyan Church is doing. Jesse, I skip ahead. I think, I kept telling you, I forgot to tell you to move to the next slide. But there is a program in the Wesleyan Church called Immigrant Connection, and it is an approved and promoted program. And I saw this program introduced at a pastor's event over 4 years ago. And it struck such a chord deep in my heart that I just sat there and cried. Because I knew this was from God. And I could just imagine all the doors that it would open to the people in our community, the people in Oceana County. And so right away I attended the first training event that I could get to get involved in Immigrant Connection, and I wanted to see exactly what it was and what they did before I even presented it to our board at Hart Wesleyan. And I went to this training and I did it all out of my own pocket, and I found out exactly what it was about. And here's what it is. I presented it to them back then, and here's what it is for you too. Next slide, Jesse. An Immigrant Connection Center would be a low-cost legal clinic that is hosted by a church or a nonprofit organization. The clinic and the leader both have to be certified by the U.S. Department of Justice, which oversees citizenship and immigration. In fact, the person that is accredited with them becomes what is called a DOJ, or Department of Justice representative. He becomes a legal counselor, similar to a lawyer. The clinic becomes a place where anyone can come in for a low-cost consultation about immigration law and procedures. And the representative, the consultant, can help them with forms and paperwork as they need it. It is not primarily a service to illegals. And this is where a lot of people misunderstand what it is and what I want to do. It's not to help illegals get here and stay here and harbor them and encourage them. It's about telling them what they can do, and usually there's nothing. Because there's no legal remedy in our system as it is. for somebody who's long overstayed a visa or came in illegally by sneaking across the border. There's nothing. I cannot help somebody like that, except I can tell them good information. I can tell them that they have to go back to their own home country, or I can tell them not to waste their money on lawyers who will say, if you give me $10,000, I'll make you legal, because they can't. It's not going to happen. So I can give good information. And there would be some legal immigrants that are in our community that I can help move on to the next step, and get closer to citizenship. And I can help them become U.S. citizens if they are already here legally. So like I said, I started this process over 4 years ago, but I felt like it wasn't time yet in our church to go ahead and do this. A lot of reasons, although the board did approve it back then. So last Sunday, I brought it to our board again, because now I have to renew my training, I have to start over again, and there's opportunities to do that. And so I asked the board, is it okay? Can I go ahead with this? And they said yes. They said, we need to do this. It will still be a process. It will take over a year from right now. If I started next week, it would still take over a year before we would actually open a clinic here in this building. And if you want to know more, I wrote up a Q&A thing that tells all about this program. Main would be to try to stop some of the rumors that people misunderstand, just like they misunderstood Jesus. It's not about harboring, it's not about condoning, it's not about encouraging illegal immigration. In fact, it's actually the opposite. It helps people understand what the law really is and what they are doing and how they can become legal. So I think it's worth it. I think it's worth the process. I think it's worth everything we can do in this area because of our community, because of those that are right around us. And the biggest reason that I want to do it is that it puts out this huge welcome mat. Instead of signs that say go away, it says welcome. And that's what I think we need to do as a church. And in the meantime, while we're working on this whole process, we can work on our welcoming skills. That's our conclusion today, Jesse. Next slide. This is what we need to do. We need to trade the go away mat for a welcome home mat. And a big part of that is to say, come as you are. Welcome the sinner. Give them grace and space for truth, but to welcome. Anyone have a question? I know it's right on the time. Do you have more questions?
I think the majority of us, if not all of us, are ready to stand with you.
I think you are.
This our stone pillar.
In fact, this church, Stone Pillar, put up a lot of money for me to get this started. And I've been working on it, and it's been a long process. It's still going to be a long process, because part of that process is that I found out that I still have to start all over again. Just turned in the paperwork, and I started the application, and it came back and said, you need to start over. So that's where we are. Which, fortunately, I haven't spent a lot of that money yet that's available, but I'll have to spend some of it to get this going. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for your support as a church. It's been very encouraging. So you know I'm doing this for you today, but also I will repeat it in the second service where a lot of people don't understand and you have a lot of questions. And if you have some, pick up one of these. I've got more at the table in the back. If you want to know exactly what it is and what it does, you can find out about that. All right, let's stand and pray because I'm at the end of my time. Jesus, as we try to follow your example, we will find ourselves in the same hard place, between a rock and a hard place, because people will misunderstand us. They will accuse us, just as they did you, of approving of sin because you welcome sinners. So help us, Lord, as we face some of those criticisms. Help us to set people straight and give good answers. But help us to extend grace even to them, to those who criticize us and those who misunderstand. And Lord, as we step out into this journey again, just pray that you'll give us success in seeking out lost people, people who really know that they're lost and broken and hurting. And this includes our migrant population and illegals that are right around us. They are broken and they're hurting. So help us to extend a welcome to everyone, despite their condition, despite who they are and what they've done. Lord, help us to be more like Jesus. Let's give truth, but with grace and with space. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks, guys.